past, which has in many ways been the most extraordinary year that I think the NHS has experienced. I've said that frequently in my chairman's reports, but the combination of the enormous increases in demand for our services at Swift since the end of COVID, the challenges we've had with remobilising everything in a post-COVID world, and more recently the industrial action which we have suffered from has meant it's been a peculiarly challenging and relentless year for all of our frontline teams. So I just want to put on public record my thanks to everyone on the front line who day in, day out do the very best for the citizens of Warwickshire to give them the service that I know they professionally are proud of, but also want their families and loved ones to receive as well. Just in terms of some etiquette for today's meeting, can I ask everyone to please turn their cameras and microphones off? So I can see two cameras on, so could I ask Mr. Elson to turn your camera off? That would be wonderful. We will be recording this meeting, so everyone who asks a question, just so you're aware, we will be recording the meeting, and so can I ask Sarah Collette to start the recording of the meeting. Questions will be able to be asked under item 11 or throughout the meeting using this chat box function on MS Teams. If you're happy to use the chat box function, we will endeavour to ensure questions are asked as we go along, but otherwise under item 11 you'll be able to ask questions, and we'll be able to, if not, answer questions outside the meetings and get back to you. I have apologies for absence from one governor, David G, and from some board colleagues, Charles Ashton, Fiona Burton, Harkamel Heron and Simon Page. Sarah Collette, do we have any other apologies?
We do, thank you, Russell. Bernard Usselman's also sent his apologies.
Okay, thank you very much. So they will be duly recorded. So the first formal bit of the meeting is with respect to the minutes of the last meeting held on the 27th of September. For board colleagues, are there any amendments to the minutes which you require to be made? Please raise a digital hand. Sarah?
Sophie Black was actually present, so that's an amendment to the minutes, please.
Okay, super. So with that one amendment, can I ask our Board of Director colleagues, if you're not happy to approve those last set of minutes, or governors, please raise a digital hand. Roger, you're saying you're unhappy to approve those minutes?
I would like my apologies to be noted. I didn't attend the meeting, and it doesn't seem to be recorded. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. So with that further amend, if you can take your hand down, Roger, that would be great. So with that further amend, if you're not happy to approve the minutes, please raise a digital hand. I can't see any digital hands raised, so I'll take those as accurate and they'll be duly recorded. So the first part of our meeting is the review of the year. So I'm delighted to hand over to Glenn Burley, our Chief Executive. So Glenn, over to you.
Thank you, Russell. I'm feeling like an old timer now because I've been here for all 14 of these meetings and a couple before when we were not a foundation trust. So it's a great pleasure to talk about the year that's just ended, and particularly, Russell, as you say, a year where we faced a huge number of challenges, the highest ever demand levels that we've seen, waves of COVID and of flu, industrial action, demand actually increasing locally through patients choosing to come to South Warwickshire because of our high levels of performance. So despite all of those challenges, we look back on another year of really great progress for the organisation. Now, I've been doing this for 14 years, and clearly the comms team have decided that I drone on with the slide pack too much. So this year we're going to move to a video in a moment, which our great comms team actually have pulled together, which looks through the main headlines in the annual report. And anyone who wants to go through the full annual report, which I'd certainly encourage you to do, it's available on our website. We don't produce paper copies of it because it's a big document, but it includes lots of really interesting information, celebration and clarity on our performance. So the annual accounts are also supplemented by annual quality accounts. And in a moment, after we've seen the video, Kim will take us through our headline financial accounts. If I was to pull out just a few headlines from the video, which I think they'll allow me to do, the estate strategy is one of the key milestones for us this year, actually moving forward with that, starting the work on that just outside my office window. Apologies for the disruption that it's caused for some of our patients, but it's really key that we get ourselves in a position where we have a new estate, a new surgical day unit. We are the first acute site in the whole of the NHS to be accredited as an elective hub. All of the others so far have been separate from acute sites, and we talk a little bit about that in the video. Staff survey top 5, fantastic. We've got fantastic staff, and you'll see some examples of that. And actually recently it's proved what I've always said, that if you've got engaged staff, patients get a great experience. So we've just been listed as second in the country on the CQC inpatient survey. Also within the video, you'll hear about some of the green spaces to support staff wellbeing. You'll hear about our amazing volunteers and our fundraisers. And also when Kim takes us through the accounts, you'll hear a little bit about the way we manage the money. And one of the things that we're really proud of this year is the way that we've led a clinically led change program, which is called Excel in Everything, which is helping to demonstrate how, if you get everything else right, your finances will follow. So, Sarah, if you would like to start playing the video, that would be great. Thank you, Russell. If I may just add a couple of comments. Firstly, noting the comments in the chat about some of those slides not being easy to follow for visually impaired. So apologies for that. We'll take that on board when we look at how we do this next year. One of the slides referred to legacies over the year of £2,500. That's an error in the annual report. It should say £45,000. That's the only correction I need to make to those slides. You'll see also in the slides that there was an element that was an overview of our financial position for the year. Kim Lee, our Chief Finance Officer, is just now going to take us through those headlines.
Thank you, Glenn. Kim, over to you.
Sorry, just trying to get the IT. I've got a new camera thing, so apologies for that. I'm just going to share the slides and I'll talk through some of those slides a bit slowly. So I appreciate that the audience is varied, so I'm going to hopefully pitch it so that people can understand in layman's terms really what I'm saying. So can people see the slides? First of all,
yes, we can.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so the key issues really in the backdrop of that.
Kim, you've gone on to mute.
Sorry, I've not got used to this new tech that I've got, so apologies for that. So hopefully people will see that in the backdrop really of how busy we were and the operational challenges that we dealt with last year, that the trust actually did really well.
Kim, you've gone on to mute again.
Really sorry, I don't know what's going on with my tech. I'm not going to touch the is that better? Right. So yeah. In the backdrop of the all the activity that we delivered last year and all the challenges, the trust did really well in order to deliver a £71,000 surplus last financial year, although this is below the surplus plan of £3 million. Now, that was linked to the fact that there was an ask for the whole of Coventry and Warwickshire system to deliver a break-even plan. But actually, even with the £71,000 surplus that we delivered, the system delivered a break-even position. So that's a tremendous effort from a financial basis. The figures talk about the group, and in this context, I just wanted to be really clear that it refers to SWIF as a NHS trust and also our wholly owned subsidiary SWIF Clinical Services. So we kind of we add the figures together, net off any sort of entries that are between the two organisations, and that's how we come up with the total financial position for the organisations. Now, again, just to remind people, as a foundation trust and an NHS trust, we have a duty to deliver a break-even position. So a surplus position is a really positive result. I just wanted to explain the statements that you see in our annual account. So there's two key financial statements. One is the statement of comprehensive income, and people internally we know that really as the income and expenditure account, or some of you might be familiar with the term profit and loss account. But this is what we use in the NHS in terms of our terminology. The top couple of lines really tell you or show you really how we do in terms of operating surplus. So that's basically how we run our services, what we gain in terms of income, and how we actually spent the money. And the top two lines add up to the income figure, which I'll show in the pie charts in a moment. And the operating expenses I've done a bit more of a breakdown in the pie charts in a second. The rest really are technical adjustments to show you really, what else we've spent. So a public dividend capital payable is effectively, our mortgage payment that we have to make back to the NHS for the assets that we own. and we've also had some technical adjustments around impairments of assets where they're not worth as much, or they're worth more than the original valuation. So just wanted to simplify really some of the explanations for you. So that's the statement of comprehensive income, and it basically shows you how we get to the £71,000 surplus. And you will see, in comparison to the previous year, we've done slightly better than the year before. The pie chart here is the income, and you will see that the top two lines of the previous table show you how you get to the £422 million of income that we've earned last financial year. And this is an increase of just under 26 million compared to the previous year, the bulk of which has come from the Coventry and Warwickshire ICS, and the rest really come from other areas, as well as income from local authorities for some of our services and Health Education England. So you'll see that's the breakdown of how we get the income that we receive. In terms of how we spend it, we spent just under the 422 million, and you'll see the bulk of that's pay. So large, we've always spent just under 70% of our income is spent on pay, and you'll see the rest is broken down by clinical supplies, which is the other large area. Clinical negligence scheme for trust, just to help explain, that's essentially our premium. So the insurance premium that we pay to the NHS Resolution Authority for any issues that may unfortunately arise. So that's the bulk of the expenditure for your information. In terms of capital expenditure, I've only highlighted here the expenditure that we spent on the property, plant and equipment. We did spend some other expenditure, on investments elsewhere, but those are the key headlines for you that were shared in the slides before. Now, this is the statement of financial position. So for those of us who've been around for a while, it's known as the balance sheet. And the balance sheet is essentially a statement at a point of time of what assets you own and what you owe in terms of to somebody, what monies are owed to you, what cash you have in the bank or cash in hand. So it's a statement of what you have. So for your personal assets, it could be you own a house, you own a car, you owe Bob down the road £10, but they owe you £20. So it's a statement really of your position at a point in time, and this is our statement as at the 31st of March. So that shows you in terms of the property, plant and equipment. It reflects the sort of the 13.6 million that we spent, but also it reflects the fact that we depreciate our assets during the year as well, and that's how we arrive at our kind of total non-current assets figure. So just wanted to give you that sort of broad brush explanation of the two main statements of accounts. So I'm happy to take questions. I'll stop sharing now. It's okay.
Okay, if we can come back to questions at the end, Kim, that would be great. But thank you very much. So now it's that formal bit of the meeting where we need to accept the annual report, the quality report, accounts and auditor statement. So can I ask Board of Directors and colleagues, if you're not happy to accept those, could you please raise a digital hand? Okay, can't see any digital hands raised, so they'll be formally noted. Thank you very much. We move on then to the annual report of the Council of Governors for 22-23. As Chair of the Council of Governors, just before I give the formal report, I would just like to note thanks to all of the governors for their work in the improvements that we make in the trust. The governors have a difficult balance to strike between being the voice of the citizens that they represent, but also recognising the role that they're not non-executives. And I really do appreciate the way the governors work, in particular Mary Molloy, the lead governor, who works tirelessly to try and ensure that the trust achieves its potential, and the Council of Governors help us to do that. So in terms of the formal report, I'll read this out just for completeness. Obviously, the last annual Governors and Members meeting was held on the 27th of September the 22nd, where we received the formal presentations last year of the 21-22 annual report and accounts and the auditor's report on the accounts in accordance with the Trust's constitution. The meeting also received a report on the proceedings of the Council of Governors, a presentation on the Trust's achievement during 21 and 22 and future focus, and presentation of the annual Going the Extra Mile awards to Trust staff. The proceedings of the Council of Governors since that last annual report. We've met as a council 5 times in May, twice in September, November and in February 23, and actually we're meeting this afternoon. Following the COVID-19 pandemic, the Council of Governors meeting, as well as the annual general meeting, have continued to be held virtually as today via Microsoft Teams, and is in line with the Trust's meeting arrangements to improve productivity and sustainability. I am aware that some members of the public find meeting digitally a much better situation in terms of ease of access to the meetings, but also I'm aware that some other friends and colleagues find it less useful and prefer the old days of being able to meet together. At each meeting, the Council of Governors received reports on the performance of the Trust and the Trust's plans, and questioned the Chief Executive and the Chief Officers and Non-Executive Directors on these reports. Each meeting also received reports and considered recommendation from the subcommittees of the Council of Governors, which include the Nominations and Remuneration Committee, the General Purposes Committee and the Patient Care Committee. In performing its statutory duties during the year, the Council of Governors received and approved amendments to the Trust Constitution, and particular thanks to Roger Lloyd for his diligence in helping us on that. Considered and agreed changes to non-executive directors' voting rights, so that Richard Colley became a voting non-executive director and Rosemary Hyde became a non-voting non-executive director. I'd also like to thank Rosemary, who stood down during the course of the last year for all her work as a non-executive. And they retrospectively approved the appointment of Professor Paramjit Singh Gill as a nominated non-executive director of the Trust from our stakeholder partner at Warwick Medical School. They reappointed Mary Molloy, Public Governor, West Stratford and Borders, as the lead governor. They received and noted an annual report from the lead governor, received and noted the self-assessment of the Council of Governors, received a report from the Trust's external auditor on the outcome of their work, and received the register of governors and governors' interests. They considered and agreed amendments to the Council of Governors Subcommittee's terms of reference, and through the Nomination and Remuneration Committee report, received the outcome of the non-executive directors and chair's annual appraisal. They also received and noted the annual report and accounts for last year, and agreed the Trust's change of name to South Warwickshire University NHS Foundation Trust. Highlights of the Council of Governors business included the Governors contributing to the development of the Trust strategy and plans at the autumn and spring so-called round table meetings with the directors, and the quarterly Council of Governors meetings discuss progress on the Trust's objectives. The Governors have particularly sought assurance from the Trust during the year on all aspects of the Trust's response to the COVID-19 resurgence, winter planning, including maintaining patient flow during the winter, the Ockenden report, the Levelling Up report, poor performance issues relating to the emergency department and elective service recovery, radiology and pathology recovery plan, the Trust's performance against patient-initiated follow-ups, and the Trust's compliance against 7-day working. The governors continue to contribute to a variety of internal project meetings, working groups that monitor progress of key projects within the Trust, including end-of-life care, the Ellen Badger Hospital redevelopment, falls prevention work, patient portal group, the elective care group, the wayfinding project, safer discharge work, and we're also invited to join the patient experience group and the patient safety surveillance committee. The Patient Care Committee continued to scrutinise the quality of patient care, received regular reports on topics of interest, and received and discussed feedback raised by governors on behalf of their constituents. The General Purposes Committee continued to oversee the arrangements for the conduct of business for the Council of Governors and also membership recruitment and engagement. Following changes to the arrangement for the Trust's finance and performance meetings, it was agreed to disband the Business Oversight Committee. Reports on the Finance and Performance Executive and Audit Committee meetings will be covered in the meetings with the Chair and Non-Executive Directors, Simon Page and Richard Colley. A Governor continued to be a member of the Clinical Governance Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Board of Directors as nominated by the Council of Governors. And governors continue to have the opportunity to meet virtually with the chair and also the non-executive directors. They were able to observe public board meetings, again held virtually, and were also invited to observe the Trust's audit committee. The chair continues to meet monthly with the lead governors and all of the elected governors. In terms of membership development and engagement throughout 2022-23, the General Purposes Committee has been responsible for overseeing those arrangements. At the COG meeting on the 11th of May 23, the Council approved the establishment of a Membership and Engagement Committee, which is a Council of Governors subcommittee, and takes over the responsibility for overseeing the recruitment of members and engagement with members and the public at large. We continue to communicate with online members, sharing updates on the Trust. New members joined via the online form, which is linked to all membership posts created via social media. In terms of elections and appointments, following the governor elections process with the new council elected from the 1st of March 22, there were 3 vacancies and therefore further elections were held during 22-23. The vacancies were filled as follows, with Mike Flaxman duly elected as Public Governor for West Stratford and Borders. Roger Weddell was duly elected as the Staff Governor for Clinical Support, and Dr. Bernard Osserman was duly elected as the Staff Governor for Medical and Dental. One resignation was received from Helena Darcy-Cope, Staff Governor for Community Nursing and Midwifery. An election was held to fill this vacancy, but unfortunately no nominations were received. I would just like to thank Helena personally for all of her work as the Staff Governor. Helena and all of our community nursing and midwifery team are a fantastic example of the work we do at Place in Swift, so thank you. In terms of appointed governors, due to clinical commissioning groups no longer existing, Dr. Suki Deshi stood down as an appointed governor, and the Trust Constitution has been updated to remove this position from the composition of the Council of Governors. In terms of comments from the Council of Governors, the Council of Governors sees its role as holding the NEDs to account, seeking assurance of quality and care on behalf of patients, and supporting the Trust in ensuring the current position is maintained and where possible improved, whilst being conversant of the increased demand, increased pressures, staffing issues and challenges facing the NHS locally and nationally. The Council of Governors, based on information and data available, is assured that the Trust has indeed again performed well this year. Governors are aware that the Trust has not been able to perform as well as in the past against some targets. The Governors acknowledge the challenging times and are assured that the Trust is aware of the areas where improvement is needed and are working to improve the situation where it is in their gift to do so. The Governors are assured that the care provided by the Trust continues to be safe and of a good standard. Led by the Chair and Chief Executive, we expect this to continue. The governors are also assured that the Trust's finances are well managed and the quality of care is overseen by a competent and robust management team and management processes. The governors continue to be pleased to see further developments, innovations and changes which support improvements in patient care and to patient experience. The Council of Governors wishes to thank Trust staff for their continued hard work and the dedication during another challenging year. And as I said, I want to thank, and just reiterate my thanks to the governors for all their support to the Trust in the execution of its duties. As governors have indicated there, this last year has been an immensely challenging one. But as I said, in the context of those challenges, I am immensely proud of our frontline teams, the work of the executives. We are lucky to have the executives that we have. And I would particularly like to thank Glenn, who works ceaselessly to ensure that the local healthcare economy and our citizens receive the very best care they do. I'd also like to thank the non-executive directors for their work. And in particular, Simon Page, my vice chair, and Sue Wheeling-Tracy, the senior independent director. And in terms of other parts of the organisation, we are incredibly blessed, as Glenn touched on briefly, to have the volunteers that we have. Those volunteers, whether it's the Patient Forum, the League of Friends, people like Elizabeth Dixon helping me and Fiona Burton on issues of access across the Trust. We have, and we're really blessed to have the community support that we do have across the Trust. So thank you all very much. At this point, I will just ask that if you are happy for that Council of Governors report to be noted. If you're not, please raise a digital hand. So duly noted, thank you very much. So I think we then move on to any other business. So are there any other items of business from the Council of Governors or board members? Could you please raise a digital hand? Okay, so the date of the next meeting will be announced in due course. So I think that brings to a close the formal part of the meeting. But I would now like to hand over to another video, and hopefully this is a bit easier for some colleagues to sort of absorb. And it's our achievements and future focus. So Sarah, could you please get the video running and share your screen?
Hi everyone, this is a short video from me just to sit alongside the launch of our group-wide strategy. So over the last year, we've been looking at the strategy in all three trusts in the group. They looked at it separately. We engaged with staff and stakeholders. We had board sessions over the summer, and then we brought them together to see where the alignment was. And I was really pleased to see really strong alignment of all three trusts in the way we want to take our services forward. So at the heart of the strategy, there's an update of the strategic wheel, which is that vision for the way that things are going to work together, a vision of integration, of partnership working, and a focus on helping our communities to live healthier, happier lives. That sits in the heart of it, but beneath that, we then have 6 pillars. The 6 pillars, each of which will have a supporting strategy if it needs to in the individual organisation. So we've set out a strategic vision, and one of the things that's different about this document is we've added the thing that we've called big moves. So what these big moves are 5 areas where we're really going to accelerate our progress that will help us to implement that overall strategic vision.
been to Acorn House yet. I should go. So you a knife for my bloody neighbour.
Open this wonderful.
Sarah, I think we've lost the sound.
It's very faint unless somebody's talking.
I'm Adam Carson, Managing Director of Swift. One of the things I enjoy most about working here is the broad and really diverse range of talents we've got, both across our workforce and with our volunteers. Our volunteers really help to make this a great organisation. They support our patients and they support our staff. And all I hear is great stuff. So thank you on Volunteers Week.
Tobacco and the impact of smoking is still significant within Warwickshire. This is even despite declining rates and number of people who do smoke. The impact that it has on your health is so significant, it retains a key public health priority. We know that people are receptive to health advice when we're in hospital, but yet we also know that historically very few quit attempts have started in hospital. And actually that's what the New Tobacco Dependency Service will help us to do. By supporting people at the point when they decide to make a quit attempt, by giving them NRT and by giving them advice, we can increase the chances of them successfully giving up.
I believe strongly in assisting patients in beating nicotine addiction, and this is because I've witnessed firsthand, as I'm sure many of you have, how an addiction to nicotine can rob many of their good quality of life. We see many of our acutely ill patients coming through to our emergency services with smoking-related illnesses like COPD, heart attacks, strokes and cancers, and many more debilitating and fatal illnesses. These long-term illnesses are detrimental to life-limiting symptoms, some of which we cannot reverse, which is why it is so important that we aid the patient so early on in their quit attempt in their journey. We aim for our service to help patients by treating the addictions to nicotine and in turn preventing further development of their smoking related illnesses and hopefully improving their quality of life. In fact, we aimed to assist in saving their lives.
This is part of the NHS long-term plan. It's one of the things that we're doing as the Trust's goal, and it's our big move towards prevention. And it's one of the things that we can do that will have a significant impact on the health of people in Warwickshire, preventing ill health and preventing people returning into hospital.
We aim to deliver the service at the patient's bedside with the assistance of our Band 4 specialists. They will assist with delivering that all-important dual therapy of pharmacotherapy and behavioural therapy. It is imperative that patients receive those therapies together, as for many patients it's not just about treating the addiction with medications, it's also about treating the psychological elements. This consists of addressing and adapting the reasons as to why they started smoking and awareness of how to manage their repetitive behaviours, triggers and habits that form with the addiction. And this can be treated through that all-important behavioural therapy. Data displays from historical services that treating one without the other has very minimal success rates. Treating both elements of the addiction together and within a hospital environment has seemed to have great success rates.
Benefits are amazing. I can breathe properly. I've lost my smoker's cough. I've lost all that smoker's phlegm. That was sort of within 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I lost all that phlegm, lost the coughing, lots of difficulty in breathing.
Now I'd like to take the time to say thank you for listening to our short video, and thank you to those that have referred and will refer.
Heather Redding. I'm one of the advanced clinical practitioners for urgent community response for South Warwickshire University Foundation Trust, and this is a video about a day in the life of urgent community response in South Place. So we start the day at 8 o'clock, cover an 8 till 8, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The ACPs work 8 till 8. Some of the other team do flexible working, just so we're covered throughout the day. 8 o'clock in the morning, we start with a bronze meeting, which is a collaborative meeting of managers and clinicians from acute and community services. 8:15, we have a West Midlands Ambulance Service collaborative meeting, and at 9 o'clock, frailty meeting with our acute colleagues and an acute frailty consultant. And we've got a virtual ward that we also help administer for admission avoidance and facilitated discharge of patients.
I just wondered if you'd be able to see an 81-year-old lady for us.
Can you give me the NHS number, please?
If you were able to visit her.
Yeah, okay. We will.
And then you can always feed back to us, and we can decide if we need to involve them. Thanks so much.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers, bye-bye.
So as you can see, Heather has just taken the referral from Consultant Connect for this patient who's asthmatic in respiratory distress. So I'm going to go out and do an assessment of this lady now. My name's Joanna Pearce. I'm one of the advanced clinical practitioners for urgent community response working in South Warwickshire, and I work mainly in the community. So we've just had a referral from Consultant Connect, and this is from one of the GPs out in our local area, who is concerned about a patient who is in respiratory distress. This person could possibly have to be admitted to hospital. So we try and go out and see if we can intercept and see if we can help keep this patient at home, give them the right treatment at the right place at the right time, basically. So we're off now to go and see this patient, where I'll do a full assessment, probably take some blood. We have a good relationship with the Path Lab. We're an integrated trust and we have a fast turnaround. They normally give us our bloods back within 2 hours. So if the bloods indicate that there is any need for us to do any interventions, any treatments that they're showing that there's some deranged bloods, things like that, we can act on it quite fast. So once we get a referral, we have a 2-hour response and a same-day response, depending on how urgent it is, whether we need to see that patient urgently or it could be within the same day.
Hi, my name's Grant. I'm a physiotherapist. I work for the urgent community response team. So if a patient has issues with mobility or they need equipment and adaptations, that's why we're involved. When we ring up and triage referral, we'll ask, you know, about equipment existing in the property and also about, you know, the mobility level. And then from that, we establish, okay, we'll need to take out a wheel Zimmer frame, we need to take out a commode, whatever we've got installed covered, we can take out because that's part of being an urgent service.
Hi there, I'm Sophie, clinical specialist for therapy within the urgent community response team. So I work as part of the multi-skilled UCR team to help prevent unnecessary hospital admissions. So as therapists, we're able to conduct thorough health and social care assessments to determine the needs of the patient. We're able to respond to patients within 2 hours or 24 hours, depending on the level of urgency. So we might be called out to somebody who's had a fall. That's somebody who's fallen without any sort of apparent serious injury or loss of consciousness. Or we might be called out to somebody who's at a very high risk of falling. We may also be called out to somebody who's just had a very rapid decline in their mobility or functioning, and we're able to organise same-day delivery of equipment to keep patients safe at home. We also sort of work very closely with other members of the UCR team, so the ACPs, nurses, so that there's sort of a holistic approach to the patient's care.
So referrals come from all different services. It's a non-exhaustive list, but generally from general practitioners, from 111 service, from the ambulance service after 999 calls when they've been redirected. Patients can self-refer, but usually when they've been guided to through 111, they've got the single point of access number, and then that goes through to our clinical call centre. We also get referrals from acute. Sometimes that's for admission avoidance, but also facilitated discharge. And we also have self-generated referrals from our district nursing teams, therapists, and other such services too, when they go and recognise that somebody's in a deteriorating state.
So right here now where I am, there's a modular build behind me. This is enabling us to move some of our services out of the area that needs to be demolished. Step North is our contractor. They're working really closely with us to minimise the impact, but we will be demolishing quite a large part of the site that runs behind me all the way to the security office. As part of the elective hub work, we will be building a 3-storey building. The first floor on the ground, the ground floor will host our restaurant, cafe area. The next 2 floors will be where we move 2 of our wards to. That's 23-hour ward and Hatton. There'll also be some space on there to do some additional planned care activity, which really helps us reduce our waiting lists and provide the services our community needs. Once that is finished, that is the start of transforming Warwick Hospital site. So that is the start of our elective hub development. The next part of this will be to then build another 3-storey block where we start to move our day surgery and our diagnostics, subject to funding. So I'm down at the back of day surgery, and this is probably the part of our estate at Warwick Hospital that's had the most work over the last 12 months and will continue to do so. The first project that was completed last week was around McGregor Ward Extension. We have provided a bereavement suite, a playroom and another sensory room, and that's really to help our teams manage the increasing demand they're seeing through that facility, and also provide a much better environment for our patients and their families. That has been pretty much fully supported by fundraising income, so it's a really positive project that the community have really bought into. The next project down here is the Vanguard Theatre. So many of you will be aware we've had this before, but because of the work we're doing on Cath Lab, we've had to relocate it into a different space. That's meant we've had to create a corridor that's taken up quite a lot of space down the bottom of the car park. The Vanguard Theatre went live today in July and will be here for at least 12 months. So that corridor now joins directly to the ward block, but has created quite a lot of disruption as we've had to do that project quite quickly. So I've mentioned Cath Lab. This has been a really complex project to provide some core infrastructure for our site. It's taken quite a lot of time because we've had to decant whilst we've built. We have decanted the recovery for our Cath Lab into the modular build that you can see behind me. That's temporary, and then that will be moved into being a facility that we provide elective care from. Previous videos have talked about the elective hub and that project, and this modular build behind is part of how we would deliver more elective activity whilst that project is completed. We've also got a CT replacement down here, which has meant we've had a mobile CT scanner on site, and that's alongside the paediatric assessment unit and neurology unit that we've already got here. The good news is, as these projects complete, things will move off site, so the temporary CT scanner will move off site. We also will be moving our linen room, and so this will become a lot clearer down here as to what's here. And really appreciate everyone's support as we've been doing all of this work, and hopefully through this you can see how complex it is about managing these multiple projects in the same space.
Well, thank you, Glenn. Glenn, is there anything you'd like to add before we move on?
Just to say thank you to all of the team for pulling that video together. I think particularly seeing the out of hospital services that are such a fundamental part of our success, the way that those teams operate to keep people at home to avoid admissions that are unnecessary to hospital when we can provide great care into people's individual homes. So great work that they're doing. Huge thanks to the exec team. Adam was included in that video, but also of course Anne Coyle, who was managing director for the first half of last year. So thank you to the execs, thank you to our great staff, and we're about to celebrate one of them in a moment.
Thank you, Glenn. I think that the video really did bring to life the work we do in the community, and I'd say to our citizens, the future of healthcare increasingly will be closer to your local community setting. The evidence for hospital-acquired functional decline, if you stay too long in hospital, is really powerful. And so more and more of our work will be ensuring that you're able to stay at home longer, mobile, supported by us and supported by the other parts of the system to ensure you're able to have a longer, happier, healthier life living in Warwickshire. So we're now on to the annual Going the Extra Mile Awards. But before I get into that, there are a few sort of shout outs I want to personally make to people who haven't won the annual award, but I think are well worthy of a celebration and a mention. The video really did pick up on the enormous amount of work we're doing in estates. And I'd like to thank Sophie and all of the estates team for this real challenge of fitting a quart into a pint pot on our site. We are physically very constrained as a site, living within effectively a housing estate in our area. So I really do want to have a big shout out and thanks to the estates team. I know in terms of car parking and other matters, it has been extremely disruptive for patients and their families on occasion. But I know the estates team under Sophie's leadership are doing everything in their power to get it minimised in terms of impact. And the second team I want to shout out, and they were mentioned in the estates bit of the video, is the McGregor ward. The team on the McGregor ward over the last year have had to cope with some real operational challenges, and I want to thank every single member of that team for the support they've given to children in crisis in particular. They've had to cope with things that frankly they wouldn't expect to have to cope with, particularly with youngsters who are in the wrong setting and really shouldn't be in an acute setting. So I want to thank in particular the McGregor nursing team for the work they've done. And the final big shout out for me is our maternity team. I'm with David Spraggart, one of the non-executive director maternity safety champions, and I'm incredibly proud of the team at Swift, who recently in their CQC visit were given an outstanding for leadership. The maternity team this month will deliver something like 300 babies, which is a quite extraordinary number. The unit was originally designed just to deliver 180 babies a month. So the fact we're now delivering 300 as we get new people moving into our geography, but also people who are choosing to have babies at Warwick rather than elsewhere. So I really want to give a big shout out to all of the midwives that we have and the leadership team we have under Lorraine's guidance for the fantastic work they're doing. And we as a trust absolutely need to get two fundamental things absolutely right, is bringing life safely into the world and allowing life to leave the world with dignity. And on both those sides of the equation, I'm really proud for everything we do. So moving on to the Going the Extra Mile annual award winners, first up, and hopefully Adam's on the line, is our individual winner. Adam isn't on the line, so I've just been told I'm going to do the team winner first. So hopefully Adam will be able to join us. Oh, hi, Adam, you are with us. So hi, Adam. You confused me by the name on your screen. But thank you for joining us, Adam. So Adam is an ISS porter with us. So I'll just read out your nomination, Adam. So the winner of the annual individual Going the Extra Mile award goes to Adam, after being nominated twice from two different members of staff. Adam responded to a bleep in the emergency department and instinctively took action during an extremely sensitive incident that impacted the entire team. He provided compassion, care and comfort to both the A&E team and the affected family, going out of his way to make a difference. Despite it not being part of his job role and something that was not expected of him, he responded on instinct. Even after his shift was over, he returned to A&E to check on the staff. The nominator said Adam went above and beyond the call of duty to support both the trust and the family during this difficult time, and he certainly demonstrated the trust's values. The nominator also noted that Adam made a difference and exceeded his responsibilities as a porter for the trust. Adam, thank you very much. I know the detail of that case, as I know Glenn does. You were an absolute star. And on behalf of everyone, I can't thank you enough. You are a very, very worthy winner of the individual Going the Extra Mile annual award. Big round of applause for Adam. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And then we'll move on to the team winner, which is actually the emergency department. And hopefully we've got members of the team present, including Hope. Oh, great. Lovely. That looks good. Lovely to see you all. So day in, day out, you guys are absolute stars. the increase in volume you've had to cope with post-COVID, not just from people who live in our area, but coping with people coming from outside our area, because they know you deliver day in, day out, hour in, hour out, fantastic levels of care. So just before I read out the nomination, just on behalf of the board, thank you so much. And on behalf of the citizens and your families who live in Warwickshire, who you know, if ever they need an emergency department, will be coming to you. Thank you very, very much. So the nominator wrote, all the staff in the emergency department strive to keep our patients safe in a challenging department where safety is key. With patients attending the department in huge volume, the staff manage to keep them safe. They're an effective team under unprecedented pressure and manage to keep patients safe, receive excellent patient care feedback and support each other during the shift. There will be many people, including me, who have had to use your services over the last year for kidney stones, broken bones and other various different ailments. But you are absolute stars. And I know also, though, you're dealing with patients and families when they're really under stress. So you have to put up with a lot. So thank you very, very much. An enormous round of applause. You are our annual Going the Extra Mile team winners. And can you go back to all of your colleagues and say thank you very, very much. It is really appreciated. Hope you have a lovely day and hope it's not too busy. I doubt that will happen, but I hope it's not too busy. Thank you. Okay, so having done that, which in my view is always the highlight of the annual general meeting, we've got the opportunity for comments and questions for members of the trust and the general public. We have had at least one question which I'm aware of, which I'll read out, then I'll open it up. The question I've had is, I would like to know, I think Louise asked this question, I would like to know whether the trust has any RRAC, that dodgy concrete, in any of its buildings. Have all buildings built between 1950 and 1995 been checked? Glenn, I know the answer to this, but Glenn?
Yes, as you, we do not have any dodgy concrete, as you refer to it, Chairman. So we've carried out a review of that, as indeed has the whole NHS. My concern relating to this one is that this will prioritise some capital projects elsewhere. So it does create a little bit of risk regarding the next phase of our theatres project that Sophie talked about in the video. But pleased to report that we haven't got any of that problem in the trust.
Okay, great, Glenn. And the issue of capital availability is a massive issue in the trust. And thanks for the thumbs up there, Louise. Sarah Claude, have we had any other formal questions laid down?
We haven't, Russell.
Okay, so for members of the public who are with us, are there any questions you'd like to ask either me, Glenn, or the rest of the board? Please raise a digital hand. Okay, I can't see any hands being raised. I'd just like to apologise again for the first video having no commentary. For those who maybe find it a little bit difficult to read things on the screen, I do apologise for that. We will learn from that. But can I just therefore draw the meeting to a close and thank everyone for all of their endeavours. The thing about the trust is our work is 24/7, 365 days a year. And even though we may not have talked about them, whether it's the smiling face of the ladies in the Starbucks cafe, whether it's other porters apart from Adam, whether it's people working as medical secretaries or secretaries behind the scenes that none of us will ever normally be aware of them doing their work. It is a phenomenal organisation, Swift, and I think we can be, as citizens, extremely proud of the work we do. And certainly over the last couple of months, Swift has been joined in the foundation group by Worcester Acute Hospitals. So we're now 4 big trusts within the group, and that will bring benefits to Swift over time as we learn from the good things that Worcester are doing, but equally we help them to ensure that they don't need to send quite so many patients into our emergency department going forwards, which will take some of the pressure off on the front line. Can I again thank you for attending today? Lovely to see so many of you at the meeting. I think there are 42 of us on the call. Take care, look after yourself, stay mobile, and remember to use our services as you need. And as winter approaches, stay safe and get your COVID jab and flu jabs at the earliest possible opportunity. Take care, everyone. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Russ.